Hello, everybody. Welcome along to the latest webinar here on Smart Cities World, brought to you today in partnership with Dell Technologies and NVIDIA. My name is Luke Antonio, Senior Editor at Smart Cities World, and for today's purposes, host and moderator for the next hour. Now, obviously, the thing that brings us all here to this session today is artificial intelligence and stripping back some of the unknowns and bringing clarity to what this technology can do for our cities and where you can start. Cities are increasingly complex operations, so you don't need me to tell you that, and now facing more challenges than ever before, and increasingly at a loss when it comes to resource, both time, money, and human capital. Those of you who are regular readers of Smart Cities World will know that this is something we've been addressing over the past several months with Dell and NVIDIA through our white paper and interview series, which we'll be posting links to in the chat so you can find out more. They are definitely worth taking a look at, so make sure you do so after today's webinar. Today, we're expanding on those conversations and exploring how cities can overcome these barriers and embark on a successful AI journey, discovering the processes involved, in applying AI to city data and creating real, valuable, actionable insights. And to guide us through that, we're joined by two experts, Charbel Aun at NVIDIA and Wayne Arvidson at Dell. So Charbel leads smart cities and spaces for EMEA at NVIDIA, where he helps customers and partners realize the benefits of AI. He's spent 25 years in Fortune 500 and technology startups, making digital transformation happen. And Wayne is the global CTO for verticals, computer vision, and AI at Dell Technologies, and responsible for market development and strategy for Dell's computer vision solutions. He's been involved in developing computer vision technology for over 3 decades. So we are in very safe and capable hands indeed. Before we begin and I hand over to the speakers, 2 things to note. The first is that by having attended this webinar, you can sign up to a half-day Dell Accelerator Workshop for AI with the fee waived to get your own journey underway. More about that later on. So stick with us to find out how you can get involved there. And let me remind those of you who are watching live with us as well that we'll be taking audience questions toward the end of today's session. So if there's anything you'd like to find out about, anything you want to get answered, make sure you send your questions in using the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. The chat room is open as well, so if you hear something that you want to comment on, do drop us a note. For now though, Charbel, welcome along. I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you all the attendees for investing your time today with us. Thank you, Dell, for inviting. Start by some definition to level the playing field, knowing that you are probably very familiar with all these terms we're going to go through today. AI is a technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human intelligence and problem-solving capabilities. Today, when we talk about AI, we will refer to machine learning, deep learning, and lately we refer a lot to Gen AI or generative AI. These disciplines involve the development of AI algorithm modeled after the decision-making process of the human brain that can learn from available data and make increasing and more accurate classification and predictions over a period of time. AI and Gen AI came to light, I think, in the 50s, and they stirred a lot of excitement. The birth of machine learning in the 80s reignited and renewed the AI frenzy when we saw machine learning flourishing. But it was not until the 2010 with deep learning breakthrough and accelerated compute when we saw the AI boom really take over. With this boom, we saw that sweeping across industries, cities, public sector, retail, manufacturing, all industries, no exceptions. And a wide range of application technology from image, video classification, to speech recognition, to natural language processing, video surveillance, digital twin, and so on and so forth. Accelerated compute, along with deep learning, have catapulted the use of AI to the level we know today. The power of accelerated compute allowed us to move from data deluge into data hungry. Data size and availability and complexity is not the problem anymore. Lack of enough data is a problem today. Data coming from everywhere: sensors, IoT devices, streaming videos, machine data, geospatial data, social media, enterprise data, cities database, and citizen database, and so on, any source of data. And recently, Gen AI dominated the AI debate, and this is due to many positive changes in the technology. In any case, AI is here to stay for a long time, and there's a lot of amazing things we will see over the coming years. Like people living in the world of AI have seen a lot of amazing stuff over the last 6 months. But today, the application of AI are effectively infinite. So it is very helpful if we simplify them and simply bring them down to 3 fundamental categories. One is perception. And we use perception models to understand the world around us, detecting, classifying, segmenting components of existing data. An example of this could be detecting and classifying all cars on the streets, right? What models they are, what type of color, what make, and what violation they might be causing, a traffic violation as an example. Computer vision is mainly a perception AI. The second type of AI is simulation AI. We use simulation models to accelerate physics, such as collision, combustion, fluid, anything, including audio, radio waves, especially physics of lights. And we use this to predict the future state. Example could be simulating flooding, traffic behavior with other input elements such as rain, storm, anomalies, demonstration, accident, whatever it is. If you're interested to learn more about perception and simulation, feel free to Google a little bit about NVIDIA Metropolis or NVIDIA Omniverse, and these are the engines that give you an idea about that. And the third one is generation. We use generative models to understand the structure and the context within the reference data. And then we create out of this new things that are consistent with that structure and that specific context, mostly using unsupervised or semi-supervised machine learning. So while traditional AI is excellent for data analysis and pattern recognition and making prediction, Gen AI can create new data using its training data to recognize pattern and create new ones. Now, we have hundreds of AI examples. Genuinely, we have hundreds between us and Dell's. We have an abundance of real-life scalable examples leveraging NVIDIA Accelerated Compute and Dell Edge AI and delivering insight and value to our customer. Feel free to reach out anytime to anybody. You will have the contacts and we can share with you more details. Next slide, please. Today, we're going to focus on Gen AI, Edge AI, and computer vision. Often customers ask us the question, how mature is this technology? And that's a very valid question. The landscape of technology is shifting and moving so fast, sometimes it feels too hard to keep track even for those who are very close to this technology, let alone customers who are not closely following up on this topic. I would encourage you to embrace the 3 highlighted technology and to explore the value they can create to your business. While some are mainstream and very mature, like computer vision as an example, others will catch up very fast and are equally critical to understand the context of your domain of work. And the value they could create for you is going to be a game changer. Computer vision is made of few technologies and combined, they result in capturing, processing, and analyzing real work damages or videos or extract meaningful insight from raw data. As you see on the screen, computer vision is very mature and a proven productivity and efficiency. We have enough data we can share with you. We are so confident about it that 9 out of 10 of the use cases we're coming across, we have them, as in we have enough reference use cases, example, validated design, deployed solutions. And the 1 out of 10, most of the time we can deliver it, because if you have the data, we can figure a way to get you this model up and running. Now, Edge AI, here we refer to the use of AI technologies embedded in IoT endpoints, gateways, and edge servers, taking the compute capacity and intelligence to where the action is taking place, bringing a robot or a machinery or an autonomous vehicles into the world of AI intelligence. We believe every machine or device will become a robot. Some robots will move, other robots will watch things that move. Next slide, please. Like every new technology, it is very critical to understand the maturity of the technology and when it is time to adopt it. But equally, it is important to understand your own organization, your own city maturity, as it requires readiness on your side. Once the technology you chose, it's not enough to have a mature technology. You need to have the right level of maturity on your side. Here we refer to the level of development, level of adoption, level of optimization of AI capabilities within your organization. Assess how ready you are to leverage AI to drive innovation, to incorporate into your own processes. What are the talent and skills you need or you might have? And more importantly, what are the business outcomes, which Wayne will talk about a lot, that you aspire to achieve in this journey? You will most likely face a myriad of solutions and options, and you will always wonder, you will have to make a decision between build versus buy, but also once, if buy is the decision, you will have to choose from multiple amazing solutions. I understand the complexity, I understand the confusion, and we have helped many customers. We continue to sift through all these complexities. Please feel free to reach out to us, because we have developed methods and validated design between Dell and NVIDIA that would make your life easy on this journey. But be ready to understand your own maturity first. This is my key ask from you. Every AI journey will require data, talent, and suitable infrastructure, appropriate infrastructure. Assess each of your capabilities. And on the back of that, you can decide where you fit in that maturity curve. There is no wrong answer. It doesn't matter where you see yourself today, because you can understand how you move to the next level. Anyway, because AI is not happening in vacuum, it will need to be adopted and embraced by your organization, by your own people, by your own processes, and so on and so forth. I'll stop here and hand it over back to Wayne.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Charbel. That was a excellent level set on AI. Part of our objective in this webinar is to demystify it. So one of the things that Charbel mentioned that's critically important is about this, this influx of data. You've got cameras, LiDAR sensors, IoT sensors, and in extracting the insights from that data is really where the AI journey begins. Now, interestingly, as we talk to, literally thousands of customers across the globe, one of the things that we find is very little of the data that's being collected is actually being analyzed and viewed for insights, right? Matter of fact, almost 3/4 of data collected, nothing happens to it. The other thing, Charbel mentioned, personnel is a very important part of, determining your AI infrastructure and your AI strategy moving forward. What we're finding is almost 1/4 of, data management and data science and IT staff is spent on trying to figure out how to monetize this data. One of the other big challenges, and this is especially true in a city, is if you go back to 3/4 of your data is not being analyzed. The first thing is, do you even know where all the data is? It's interesting as we have discussions with customers because they feel confident that they know where their data is. And then when you start discussing things like, well, your public transit department, they've got stuff that they're collecting, information on the buses and trains and things like that aren't part of your IT infrastructure. You've got your law enforcement agencies, you've got your road department, you've got your sanitation department, public works. All of these groups have created silos of data within your city. And so, how do you make sure that you're looking at all that data and, and extracting value of it? The other thing that's going on, is, as we talked about, cameras, sensors, LiDAR, things like that. they're creating what's called unstructured data, right? So video in particular is the largest amount of unstructured data, and 80% of data being created today is unstructured, right? Which creates management challenges. And yeah, as we move forward, more and more data is going to be produced at the edge. And when we talk about the edge, what we're referring to is where the actual activity takes place. So based on the types of real-time insights that people are looking for, there's more and more information being created at these edge locations. And again, that creates a challenge in how we manage that data. So next slide, please. So it's really the approach here. And when we talk about this blueprint for bringing AI to your cities, it's really about bringing AI to the data. All right. And where we start, and again, we've talked to literally thousands and thousands of customers and in cities, through the course of the year. As we've talked to them over the years, one of the things we found was, there's a myriad of possibilities of what we could do with these tools. And it was very difficult for cities to decide where to get started. And we went back and we looked at those conversations we were having. And one of the things that we saw were 5 universal themes emerged, right? And they were universal across our whole customer base. It didn't matter whether we were talking to a manufacturing customer, healthcare, education, law enforcement, city management. These themes were pretty universal. So they were, how do I keep my facilities, my city, and the people in it safe, right? And that's not just from a crime perspective, but also from a, do they have the right protective gear? Are they in a dangerous area? What kinds of things can we look at there? The second thing is, what's my citizen, employee, and services experience from the time they engage with me till the time they disengage. The third area that they were looking for was, how do I use this technology to create operational efficiency? The fourth area is, most cities across the globe have sustainability objectives. So how do I leverage this technology in order to meet my sustainability goals? How do I make better use of power and water and resources and minimize the amount of waste that I'm creating? And then last but not least, how do I leverage all this together to make more efficient use of my financial resources and stretch those taxpayer dollars as far as possible? So what we found is when we focus on these outcomes, right, what they help us do is they help us very clearly define the workflow that is going to deliver that particular outcome. So as we look at building this blueprint for utilizing AI, that's where we start. Next thing we look at is, where's the data? Where is it being created, and where are we going to work on it based on the type of use case? After that, it's all about making sure that the data is clean and has value. What model am I going to apply to it? How do I implement that model? And then how do I take the output of that model and create dashboards and create insights in the context of the consumer of those insights? So if I'm a operations person within the transit department, I want to see a certain set of information that could be different from somebody in the law enforcement agency that's looking at that same set of data, right? That may be looking at it from a safety perspective. Now, one of the things that's happened, over just even the past 9 months, there's kind of 2 paths. Charbel mentioned the build versus buy. Another way to look at it is this standardized outcomes. So in that case, I'm running an application on a platform, and I'm getting whatever outcomes that application offers. Maybe it's object detection or license plate recognition, or direction of travel type of information. But generally, it's an application that has a finite number of outcomes that it can determine based on the fact that they've developed the model, they implement the model, right? And they're creating the dashboard into those outcomes. So that's the standardized model. The area, that a lot of people have strived for is customized outcomes. So how can I get an outcome that's particular to my environment, to my facility, to the environmental conditions in the city that I live in? In the past, the only way to do that was I had to hire a team of consultants, or I had to bring on data scientists in order to create these customized models. And what we've seen, as I mentioned, over the past 6 to 9 months in particular, is the development of tools that allow me, and my IT department now, to create these customized outcomes with these low code, no code building blocks. So no matter which way you're going, whether it's a standardized outcome that comes from an application vendor, or whether it's a customized outcome tailored to my city, that process is the same and contains all of these elements. We can go to the next slide, please. So as we mentioned, we start with the outcomes. Next, please. And that determines the workflows, right? And those workflows are things like, using digital twin technologies. So how can I create a virtual environment where, I can run, as Charbel was referring to, simulations, right? This is important for things like training. If I look at training my first responders, digital twins are a great way to do that, where I'm not disrupting the facility itself. Digital assistance is another workflow, computer vision, right? So by understanding those outcomes we're trying to achieve, that defines the workflow. Then it goes back to starting with our data. Now, as AI is developed, there's kind of, the compute paradigm has shifted. So when it started, people were really working with centralized models, and mainly cloud-based service providers. So in the centralized model, the data and training model are kept in a centralized location. However, the problem with that is, especially when you're looking for real-time analytics, there's challenges with bandwidth. And there can be data privacy issues, because the data is being kept in a third party area. And if you can imagine, as you look at cameras and LiDAR and other types of sensors, trying to send the scope of that data up to a centralized location is prohibitive. So, then people went to a distributed model. So that's where the inferencing and the insights took place at the edge location, right? So that solved the bandwidth and data privacy issues. But then the inferencing is relegated to the location where the model is running. So if you think about an application like intersection traffic safety, I would want to have information coming from as many sources as possible, because the way people are driving in one particular neighborhood may be different than they drive in another. But when I build my model that is controlling my intersection traffic safety, I want to be able to look across every type of condition. And so in that distributed scenario, I'm not getting that. So the approach that we've taken with the infrastructure here is to create a federated approach. So that's about, ingesting our data once, right? Keeping the model in a centralized location, doing the inferencing at the edge. But what happens is we take the results of that inferencing and we send that back to the centralized model. So we're not sending the data stays in place, it's protected where it's collected, but we send the results of that inferencing back to the centralized model where it can be updated, retrained, and then we use tools that we've developed within the infrastructure to push those newly trained models back down to the edge location. So we're constantly improving the quality of the insights we're getting. We're protecting the data, leaving it in place in a zero trust environment, and we've solved our bandwidth issues. So from an infrastructure perspective, it's this concept of ingest the information once, right, and then provide these multiple insights out of it. We combine that with an ecosystem of application partners. And again, these can be tools, building blocks that NVIDIA and Dell have created around solutions for generative AI, for inferencing, for model development, and things like that. And then on top of that, we lay on services provided by the technology companies such as our two companies, or by integration partners that you already work with. So we can go to the next slide, please. So as we talked about, what is a validated design? What are these building blocks that we've created, right? So it's about understanding the workflow first, based on the outcome we're trying to drive, identifying the partner that goes into that. And then Dell and NVIDIA have invested literally hundreds of millions of dollars into supporting this validation process. So the first thing that happens is we look at optimizing the application on the platform. And this is where NVIDIA plays a really important role. They provide developer resources. And I'll give you a good example of that. We have a partner that has a very sophisticated behavioral analytics algorithm that are used in these smart city type of applications. When they came into the lab, they could do 7 channels of video per GPU card. When they left the lab, they could do 70 channels per GPU card. So that changed the bandwidth, it changed the accessibility of the solution, it changed the performance characteristics of the solution. So this work that's done by the developer group with the application vendors on the platform is critically important. Then once we've got that optimized application, then it moves over into, we've got almost 750,000 square feet of lab space dedicated to these computer vision and AI applications. Now, in our experience, no workflow is delivered by a single application vendor. So what's important in this part of the process is we're testing all the applications that go into creating a workflow together. That way we understand if there's resource contention issues, CPU, GPU, storage, network, bandwidth, and we can work with the application vendors on an engineer to engineer level in order to tune those applications and ensure they're going to work together. The other thing we do is we do test to scale. And so what we mean by test to scale is we're looking at the solution from an entry perspective. We're looking at it from tens of devices up to tens of thousands of input devices, and we're seeing how that scales. What comes out of this process is a design guide, an implementation guide, and a sizing tool that, based on your environment, allows us to correctly architect this platform for you to implement your AI journey. Then we have another set of lab space where we've got these complete solutions set up. And what we allow you to do is to bring in your own data and run it on these applications and see how it's going to behave. And so what this does is this minimizes the need for an on-site pilot, right? You can see how some of these applications are going to work with your data. You can try different types of applications, right? And you can do that ahead of time. And then, we go into the deployment phase with these tools that I mentioned. So, we've minimized the risk, right? We've accelerated your time to value, because what we found is with this process, we've actually reduced the time to insight by 86% from the way it's traditionally done. And then because we've created this infrastructure where we're ingesting once and we're able to multiple insights, because we can run these multiple applications together, we've improved the quality of the outcomes. Next slide, please. So if you look across your city, right, there's certainly no shortage of of use cases that we can address. There's applications for managing roadways, for mass transit, for, again, city planners using tools like digital twin in order to, for example, if you were going to do road work, right, you could view a simulation of the city, understand how traffic is going to behave, from the perspective of routing traffic into into different streets, and then you can plan your things that way. So let's talk about a use case that's of high interest. It's one of the primary use cases that cities are looking at implementing. So with the city of Amarillo, which is in Texas, it's about 250,000 inhabitants. There's about a quarter of the population, about 25% of the population does not speak English. So one of the things that the city of Amarillo was looking at was how could they improve the quality of city services for their citizens. So what they were able to do, and again, this goes back to that approach I talked about standardized outcomes versus customized outcomes. So they really wanted an outcome tailored to the city. And with these building block solutions that we've developed around natural language processing, connected to large language model management, RAG, and then generative AI, they were able to create a solution that was a digital assistant. And so that digital assistant is, when somebody calls in or interacts with it on the web, they're able to have a natural language conversation. The tool recognizes the language that's being spoken, and then adjusts accordingly. But what they're able to do is they're able to take data from multiple departments. So processes and procedures, regulations, forms, all that information into a central location. And then based on what the citizen is asking them, they can mine all that information and provide answers back, on a single call. So if you could imagine, I want to put an addition on my home. Generally you'd have to talk to multiple departments. I'd have to talk to the zoning department. I'd have to talk to the building department to get a building permit. I'd have to understand, what other regulations are involved. I'd have forms to fill out. So with a tool like this and being able to leverage AI across all these different agencies within the city, I'm able to, in a single phone call, respond back in, they actually support over 70 languages with this tool, but they're able to respond back to the citizen, get them the information they need on that first call, and help them get all the things they need scheduled with a single phone call. So if you can imagine, it touches on operational efficiency, it touches on people experience, improves the experience of the cities, right? And it reduces the cost of delivering those services to the cities, because I haven't had to tap multiple departments and multiple people to work on a single issue. So next slide, please. So, what we've done here is, hopefully what you've taken away is that, we've created this simplified platform. So it's about ingesting your data once and providing the insights back in the context of the consumer of those insights. It's an architecture that allows you to pick a single use case to start with, but then this same architecture allows you to scale up and out as you add use cases. So you don't have all these silos of data, you don't have all these silos of equipment. You're basically able to run this off of the same converged or hyper-converged infrastructure. It's tailored to these workflows that exist in a city and within city departments. So whether it's transportation, law enforcement, education, healthcare, critical infrastructure, all that, you're able to get these industry-specific workflows. These tools have been validated, in the labs. So with this validation process, right, we've minimize the risk, we accelerate the time to value, and then it's all created in this zero trust environment. So, that all your data is protected, but very importantly, the way both companies, work is, you've got protection all the way down through the supply chain, right? Which is, again, assuring that everything you adopt within your infrastructure is done in a zero trust environment. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So if we look at, where to start our journey, certainly the first place we'd encourage you to go is at dell.com/computer vision. There are a number of tools there. There's solution briefs. There's access to the implementation guides. There's videos that talk in more detail. There's white papers, including the white paper that we did with Smart Cities World, available. Beyond that, certainly encourage you to meet with an industry specialist. We've got people located around the globe that have worked with cities and municipalities, large and small, with designing and implementing these types of solutions in real world environments, and in training on how these tools work together to create your own customized outcomes. We'd also encourage you to set up a briefing. We've got customer briefing centers and executive briefing centers across both companies around the globe. That's a place where you could go set up a meeting and see these things demonstrated in real time and get some understanding of what they deliver. And then, as we talked about, Luke mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, we've got a series of AI accelerator workshops. There's a half-day workshop. There's also more extensive ones depending on what your needs are. But definitely, if you look at the QR code that is there on that that slide that's up now. If you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to a form that you can fill out and sign up for one of these workshops. And since you're attending this particular webinar, the fee for that half-day workshop, tailored specifically for your city, is the fee is waived. So it's a really good opportunity to get your journey started. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Luke, and we'll look at what questions we got.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I was going to say refresh that slide because people saying they cannot see it overlapping. All good now. All good.
Great. Yeah, I had it here in the background just in case we needed it as well, but we can see it clearly. So thanks a lot, Wayne and Charbel as well. Obviously, you know, the next steps here are really important, and that's what we want to get across. Is to make sure that people are able to find out what their next steps are. And I think we've had some really interesting questions come through to answer in this Q&A portion of the webinar as we go through to the end. So Charbel, I'm going to welcome you back in if you want to come back on camera. The first question we'll start with is for you, and we want to, obviously, part of what we want to do with sessions like these when we host them is to make these things tangible. So the first thing that I wanted to ask you is what are the kind of most common use cases that you're seeing for this technology in cities at the moment, and what does that tell you as well as an extension about where cities are at in their adoption of this technology?
So I scanned through the questions, and your question to me will probably answer some of them, definitely not all of them. So I'll do my best. The good news is we're seeing cities adopting AI more and more to deliver efficiency. And one of the questions was about how do cities finance these projects? The good news is there are different ways, different business models that can allow us to do this. But let's talk about what are the most common use cases at least me and my team, we're seeing. I would say at a high level, transportation, is the winner from a traffic management perspective, to public transit, to buses, trains, smart parking, etc. And one of the questions was, can you give tangible examples? So I'm going to give very tangible examples if you bear with me. Let's talk about smart parking as the easy one. Today, you have on-street parking anywhere in the city. That's a problem, at least in the UK, around Friday evening and Saturdays and Sundays, because everybody aggregate in one place for social evenings and whatnot. And that is a big problem. So the allocating of resources is a bigger problem. So using a sensor to anonymously understand the presence of people, how many people are there, age group, and so on and so forth, or their sex, or what are the vehicles, what available car park spot are in this area, has delivered a significant benefit to the councils in the UK, as an example, and many other cities, where you take that real-time data and put it in the hand of people, so they first for the police to distribute the right support workforce. But at the same time, we're able to see if we have anomalies. Anomalies are commotion, fight, drunken people, someone in distress, anything. So there's a lot of areas here. Also on highways, we're seeing significant progress on vehicle classification and use of space. So if a lot of traffic violation detection, a lot of understanding, again, a car broken on the wrong spot in a dangerous area, there are different violations, as I said, understanding what vehicles pass, etc., and so on. So as I said, transportation in general is a very mature area. We have a lot of solutions. We have validated design. Reach out. We will give you indication about the value proposition, about the ROI in some cases where customers decided to share. Worst case scenario, we put you in touch with customer, because most of the customer, while they may not be willing to publish their information, on a customer to customer, usually city to city conversation, I find it they're very open on that sense. The second area where I see significant movement, I touched on it indirectly, is public safety and security. There's a lot of tractions there, situational awareness, emergency response. The cities would like to understand at all time what's going on. Not only we're talking about crime management and forensic analytics, which is also something very interesting, but more for management of resources. A lot of people touch on sustainability and environment. There's something now becoming predominant called visual pollution. We have the ability to either we use a fixed sensor or we use a sensor attached to the fleet or trucks or whatever you want. They are moving around in the cities. So those trucks or those fixed cameras, both, are able to look at all time for visual pollution. Visual pollution is defined by graffiti, broken potholes, people throwing garbage here and there, and so on and so forth. And that allows you to have a lot of impact in that sense. Now, what we're seeing is this is done via what we call CNN, neural network. What we're seeing now, they're reinforcing it with Gen AI technology, because right now, when you have all this, you can simply sit down and have a conversation. I know you all use ChatGPT at one point. If you haven't, I encourage you to do, because it's the application that's easy to help you understand. Imagine now ChatGPT with video. Now, cities officials are able to have a conversation with their videos archives by saying simply, for different purposes. One purpose is to query what's going on, but other purpose for compliance. We have, for example, compliance when you have the service road people, the city's official or the road highway officials, they go on the street and they put their life at risk, usually on highways. We want to make sure they're wearing the proper PPE equipment, they're compliant with the laws, putting the cones in the right place, parking in a specific position, putting the flashlight in a different position, and so on. There are different regulations. Right now, with the power of Gen AI at zero training shot, that is very powerful. We're able to do a lot of this. I can talk a lot about use cases for the purpose of this, but also I want to bring the ChatGPT LLM RAG, we call it, right? Large language model connected to your database. So imagine the same principle of ChatGPT, but it's private, as in you have sovereignty, city sovereignty on it. It's not open to the world, and your data is not exposed to the world. It's sitting somewhere private for you and connected to your own data, following the rules and legislation and GDPR and compliance and any guidelines you have. And you're able, as a city official, to query that database about various things related to citizen. But more importantly, me as a citizen, I can talk to an agent, to a co-pilot, and have like 80% of my transaction with the city done automatically automated. So anyway, this is a flavor of the use cases. I hope I did answer some of the question. Back to you, Luke.
100%. And as you say, I think it gives us a really good flavor of what can be done and some of the potential for this kind of technology. And like you say, it's increasingly getting into people's hands and getting to kind of experiment with it and see how it suits. So Wayne, I want to come to you with the next question here, which is partly covered off in the presentation that you gave us, but to boil it down into where to kind of get started, right? What are the most important elements to consider when starting an AI project like this? And looking at some of the questions that have come in as well, in terms of, how cities can get started by organizing their data. Do they have the capacity to be able to do that? And understanding where you as Dell and NVIDIA come in on that journey as well.
Yeah, I think that the key thing is, picking an outcome that you're trying to achieve and starting with a single use case first, right? Because Charbel talked about there's no shortage of things that you can do with this technology. And one thing I wanted to add into the point that Charbel was making, because part of the question, which dovetails into this one, is kind of the financial aspect, right? And a lot of it comes from the operational efficiency that comes out of adopting this technology. But when you look at getting started, the thing where we've seen cities be successful, it's starting with a single use case, right, in a particular area, right, proving out that use case. And then because the infrastructure that we've developed for this platform is universal, then you can scale up and out depending on what additional use cases you add or how you expand. So if you expand areas, right, I'm adding more cameras, more sensors, things like that. I may need to scale my compute and storage out. But again, it's built off the same platform. So the platform's designed to, have an entry-level footprint that can be easily scaled as I add use cases. The other thing, that we talked about, it really is about getting the insights from the data. So it's understanding where that data exists and what can we extract from it, right? And as we work with customers on this journey, a lot of times, they're not even realizing where some of these insights can come from or what type of data workflow. As I mentioned, like with the city of Amarillo example, right? They were looking at having this digital assistant, and they were looking at it mainly from a language perspective, right? Creating a service that could talk to its citizens in up to 70 languages, right? But then when we started looking at, you've got policy and procedure manuals, you've got zoning information, you've got the laws that govern your city. When you start looking at that large collection of data and the fact that I can apply these tools, so I've used the natural language processing as the way to interface into it, right? But then I'm using this large language module to take all this information and look across it, and then generative AI to provide the answers back. They started to realize that more and more pieces of the data could be integrated into this. So from a getting started perspective, single use case, work around that, then focus on the outcome you're trying to achieve, and then evolve that as you add additional use cases. And again, the infrastructure both companies have created together, it's very modular, so that you can add in these different areas of AI functionality depending on if you're implementing a standardized outcome that comes from an application provider, or you're creating a customized outcome, which includes, model development and model implementation.
May I add one thing? As Wayne was talking, I was reading a little bit the feedback and whatnot. It's very important to understand that AI is not, don't treat AI as a hammer looking for a nail. We're here to give you a flavor, to open your eyes to the art of the possible, which may or may not apply to you, which may be good for you or not good for you. Obviously, there are a few criteria you need to think about, and we will help you to go through that process. Number one is, do you need AI to solve that problem? You may not. AI is here to solve heavy compute problems, right? And that's where if you're solving it by having a person taking a visual look with their own pair of eyes, and that's good enough for you, that's good enough for you. It doesn't mean we have to bring AI to everything. Number two is the flavors we gave are just sample examples. If you have a topic you want to double click on, please reach out to Dell. They shared with you the contact. We will have someone from NVIDIA with Dell sitting. We can share with you more details. Sustainability is a topic on the mind of a lot of people. There are areas we can help. There are areas we cannot help. So we gave an example. We can give another example. We have an example where we're looking at combining visual sensors with air quality in cameras where we're looking at combination of idling time of vehicles on traffic light with the CO2 emission. There are many, many things we can talk about. Obviously, we have only 30, 40 minutes here together. So if you're interested in the topic and you want to challenge and you want to have a conversation, please reach out. And the last point, the ROI and how do you finance? This is very important. There are different models. There are models where partners will come and deploy their equipment and solution and charge you on a demand basis, on a SaaS model. There are partners that will come and scope to you and price it. Now, how do you justify the spending? There are different ways. I can give you an example where the installation of a camera with an edge AI, that's a project actually with Dell, is paying for itself within probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks. There is actual data evidence. It may not be applicable to you because the legislation in your city does not allow you to do ABC. We need to have that context in place. For example, traffic violation in cities is acceptable and other is not allowed. The question is, you have output and outcome. Sometimes the ROI is financial. Sometimes the ROI is, can you afford not to do something, right? Like if you have people dying on a roundabout, it's known to be a death roundabout, and that's a real use case. Unfortunately, it's not a pleasant use case, but that's a real use case where they have a lot of issues and they need it to understand. So you need to do something, probably temporary. Anyway, so AI is not a black box coming in that fit for all. It's a conversation we need to have, and all we want to encourage you is engage in a conversation. You have nothing to lose. You will be very surprised that it's very affordable sometimes, and it's not as complicated as you imagine. Thank you.
Yeah, and the other thing I'd like to add to that is, there's two things, right? One is, as Charbel mentioned, there's as a service. One of the things that Dell's done, we've taken this architecture. First, we're seeing more and more cities, as well as our commercial customers, move back to on-premise, right? And we have a study that shows their savings in moving out of these cloud solutions is up to 75%, right, from that perspective. So that's one thing. The second thing that we've done, we've taken this platform and this architecture, and it's available on site, but it's available in a consumable model. So Dell has a program called Apex, and what Apex allows you to do is have physical infrastructure installed in your location, right? But you're able to pay for that in a consumable model like you would with cloud services. You're paying for the components of it you're using. It gives you flexibility with scalability on the fly or seasonal scalability. So there's a lot of things to it, but there are alternatives, outside just the purchase model in order to facilitate these types of solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's both what you said there is a good place to wrap up here, because it gives people that food for thought, and some of the considerations that they need to make. As you say, as with so much of city operations, there is no one size fits all solution here, and so it's all about finding what is right for you, the scale that's right for you, and at the kind of time that suits as well. And I know we haven't got through all of the questions that have been sent in, but I actually think a lot of the questions that have been sent can be answered with some of the additional resources that we've shared links to, which I'll share again in the chat here as well. And anything that we haven't answered, we'll take online. We'll make sure that that's passed on to Wayne and Charbel to get those responses through to those who have asked the questions. So that's about all the time that we have. I recommend taking a look at the resources and obviously registering your interest in the workshop that's been referenced a couple of times here as well. Yeah, it sounds like a fantastic opportunity to find out more and work out what your next steps are. And I think Charbel said it right at the top. AI is here for the long term, and the potential is enormous. So there's no better time than the present to kind of plot your route forward. So it's worth continuing this conversation. That's something we always encourage people to do in our webinars, to take this conversation offline, moving forward, and make sure that you're getting the insight that you really want before taking the next steps here. So that's a wrap for today. My thanks go obviously to Wayne and Charbel for your time, your insight, your expertise here. It's great to speak to you both again. I'm sure we'll speak again soon. And obviously, thanks for those of you who have tuned in and watched live or on demand. If you have missed anything watching live, we will have this up live on demand in the next day or so. So make sure you take a look back through anything you might have missed. So thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Data. It's the lifeblood for today's organizations and vital in driving informed decisions that generate revenue and create business growth. But companies are losing out on valuable insights contained within data created by cameras, Internet of Things sensors, LiDAR sensors, and other external sources such as social media and user feedback. But today, as much as 73% of data isn't analyzed, providing no insights for decision making. People spend almost a quarter of their time trying new ways to extract value from it. 80% of the data is unstructured, created by isolated workflows and stored in siloed environments that IT is often unaware of. And in the next few years, 3/4 of data is expected to be created and managed at the edge, adding even more complexity to IT. Computer vision enables AI to see, and if a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a minute of video is worth 3.6 million. With powerful, purpose-built GPU-enabled systems, computer vision brings AI to your data, using machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI to transform digital images and videos into valuable insights. By recognizing objects, activities, even sentiments, and recommending actions, computer vision bridges the gap between business needs and business outcomes, helping organizations with their highest priorities, like delivering a safer environment for customers, employees, and suppliers, enhanced experiences across their facilities, greater efficiency from their people and equipment, meeting sustainability goals, and creating both new and enhanced revenue streams. Dell Technologies and NVIDIA are leaders in computer vision AI solutions, and our engineering specialists work with your data scientists, DevOps, and IT to unlock the potential of digital images, videos, and other visual inputs. Together, Dell Technologies and NVIDIA are your strategic partner. We have developed toolsets and services that allow organizations of all sizes to build customized insights from your computer vision data, tailored to your specific business. By understanding your business needs, identifying relevant data sources, workflows, and applications, and meticulously extracting value and visualizing insights, your line of business managers can make better informed decisions and take more positive action. From identifying needs to realizing outcomes, computer vision, enabled by Dell and NVIDIA's expertise, gives you more value from your data, empowering you to thrive in a fast-changing and challenging world. To arrange a personalized session with a Dell Computer Vision AI specialist, contact us at computervisionai@dell.com.